happening, everybody? I am Sara. Larry can't be here today, but this is still branded. And I'm really excited about today's guest. We have Daniel Goddard. And if y'all know him as Dar, I believe his name was, on Beastmaster. Beastmaster. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm really like up to date on Australian soap operas. It's like where I spend my time. But he is now running a digital marketing company. He's running his own AI networking app, which we're definitely going to talk about, and doing a lot of things that are not acting on soap operas anymore. He has had a really interesting career that we are really excited to talk about. And Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Hello, everybody.
Like I said, so you have a really interesting career, and you started in acting. You were, I think, over 500 episodes on Young and the Restless.
Over 1,000. Did over 1,000 episodes.
You did over 1,000. Okay, Google lied. It underestimated you.
Oh, really? Yeah, Google does that. It's part of the machine. Its goal is to lie to us.
That is insane. How did you get from that and everything you were doing to now you're launching brands and helping people network and running AI platforms?
Sure. I started out in Australia going to school to do business, but I always wanted to act because acting to me wasn't an escape from like reality. It was just a way of doing different things with my life and not being pigeonholed into just one thing. So I considered acting to be an opportunity to have different vocations. So I started acting. I started on soap opera in Australia, or nighttime soap opera called Home and Away. From there, I moved to LA, where I got Beastmaster, and that was like a global show. It was back 99 to 2002. We did that. I ran around a loincloth with a pet tiger, a pet eagle. Excuse me. So then, after that ended, I ended up in Young and the Restless, where I did over 1,000 episodes. So my entire life, I've been branding. And I realized I'd been branding myself because back in the late 90s, there was no social media. There was no opportunity to reach out to a fan base other than writing fan mail or having a website which had a chat room. So we built our first website, and we built the first chat room in the website so the fans of Beastmaster could chat and meet each other. From there, I started to realize the power of community and the power of building your brand and aligning it with different bases and different people who gravitate towards that brand. By the time I started Young and the Restless, Twitter hadn't started yet. It took a couple of years. I started 2006 there, but Facebook was out. And from there, you kind of just start to realize that your brand it does two things. One, your brand is stable because if you don't shift and don't move, it will stay where you are. But there's always different groups that will gravitate to it. So like you're the sun, they're the planets and the moons, and they start to orbit. So the goal with all branding is to figure out where your strongest orbit and your strongest the gravitational pull is. What demographics, what groups, what people. So we kind of just, decided, when I say we, because I fast forward to where I am now with my company. But I kind of at that time just realized that once you find a niche and you understand that people find something they gravitate towards, you have to cater to that niche. And then the goal is to keep adding to it. So fast forward to 2020, I left Young and the Restless. I launched Under the Inn.com, my digital marketing company. And now we run social media campaigns for people. We build websites. We do email campaigns, but we launch brands. For example, someone wanted to launch a skincare cream, for example, and they want it to be an anti-aging cream. So we called it Time Machine Cream because it's like you put it on, it's like traveling, you go backwards the way you age. So we launched Time Machine Cream. We've launched Backpack Buffet, which is basically over 1,000 customized backpacks, any backpack you want, any college, anything, backpackbuffet.com. So we kind of got to this place where people would come to us and say, I've got an idea for something and I want to get into the e-commerce business, because everyone wanted to do drop shipping or some form of e-commerce. But the question is, they don't know how to get into it. They don't know how to start it. So the most important things are just basically finding something you love, find something that you have some sort of passion for, and beginning to lay out a business strategy that makes sense. Then simultaneously now we're running Disco, which is a AI networking app. And all of this began where, I would do conventions and I would do fan events, and people would come up to me and say, I never realized that there are so many people in this convention hall right now that I would be friends with, but if it wasn't for you or your show, we never would have met.
Yeah.
So a group of girls will come up and they'll be like, oh, we met over, Beastmaster, or we met over Young and the Restless and your character and this storyline. So I started to think to myself, how do you start to bring these people together? How do you find people everywhere in the world that have a commonality that never otherwise would meet? So what Disco does is you create your profile and you define yourself by hashtags. So it can be any hashtag you want. It could be hashtag podcast, hashtag underwater basket weaving. It doesn't matter. And then mathematically,
that's going to be mine.
It has to be.
Yeah. I want to be number one in underwater basket weaving.
Well, as long as they're pink, you need to have pink underwater baskets, because they'll just, it's prettier.
Yeah.
And you want your underwater baskets to be pretty.
They have to be on brand.
Always.
So we're not even Favorite Daughter Media anymore. We are Favorite Daughter Underwater Baskets. We're rebranding today.
I love it. So then you take all these hashtags and then we design it where it's GPS based. So let's say you're in Austin, Texas, and ironically, you walk out the door and you're walking towards a coffee shop where you like to get coffee. If you pass the radius, and you can set your radius from like 0.2 miles to 10 miles. If you enter the radius of somebody else that has hashtags that match with you, you get notified. So you'll know there's someone in your proximity that you're coming near that has commonalities with you. And then we have an AI conversation voice chat that then allows you to start talking to that person using AI conversation based upon your commonalities. So you could say, I want to talk to this person only about pod matching, podcasting, Dallas Cowboys. I know you're probably a Cowboys fan now because you moved to Texas. You have to be, right? You moved to Texas.
Don't insult me. Fan? Don't insult me like that.
So,
it's just rude.
New York Giants?
No? Actually, New Orleans Saints and Detroit Lions, which makes a lot of
sense.
There
you go. So you'd have hashtag Jared Goff, hashtag Detroit Lions, hashtag Drew Brees, and then so basically the goal was to find a way to build community and bring people together in a way that otherwise they would never be able to do. And what the great thing about this, as it's starting to build its own life, is we have colleges around the country, from Syracuse, Kentucky University, Southern University, et cetera, where they want to use the technology because it allows kids, when they get to campus on the very first day, to put the subjects they're into, they're studying, the hobbies they're into, all the things that define them, and start to make friends immediately, because it takes forever when you get to college. You don't know anybody. You walk around, everybody's a stranger. You don't know, you just have no friends. So the goal is, how do we make a younger generation, and an older generation for that matter, find a way to streamline, they meet people of value, people that matter, people that will change their life for something that's positive. And it works at conventions. You can drop into a convention and attend it virtually, and everyone can meet and match, and it just streamlines deal flow. So I think the long story of all of this short is, what began as a business career in the 90s when I went to college, and turned into an acting career, turned into a branding career, came back full circle to a business career. But at the center of it is always the need to brand and form brands that people can connect with.
That's really interesting. And it's interesting, like the app is built on connections, and we've talked about AI connections, all of this stuff a lot. And it always kind of comes back to this idea of like AI generated authenticity, because we're in this age of AI, and now it makes everything feel a little bit fake. But it sounds like, it sounds like with this, it's like kind of the
it's anti-AI in its own way.
Yeah.
We just said the same thing.
We're the same person. We are the same person. So much in common. I was also on the Young and the Restless. You just didn't see me. I was in the back. But no, that's really interesting. It's kind of also, but we think about networking, we think about it professionally, but this sounds kind of more like online friend dating.
Yeah, it's almost like a compilation of everything that I've used from a branding or social side or a social media side, kind of rolled into one more streamlined, whittled back, sort of like special forces application in a way where it's what really matters. Because you'll go on TikTok and you'll get sucked into this void of just swiping. Same with Instagram, maybe the same with Twitter. But at the end of the day, you're just basically burning time and you're just looking for dopamine. So we kind of discovered pretty quickly that there's still a strong need for human connection. And it's not just superficial, I post something, somebody I'd never meet, will never know, commented on it or liked it. People get a lot of satisfaction from, oh, I got this many likes or this many comments or this many shares, right? But it's generally amongst strangers that really don't matter. They don't mean anything to you. So
it's basically vanity metrics.
It's vanity metrics, exactly what it is. It's ego-based vanity metrics, and at the end of the day, it just leaves you. It gives you momentary satisfaction and momentary dopamine and endorphins. But when it comes and goes, then the next one has to be better. Otherwise, you feel like a loser. Like you'll post something and you'll get like say 100 comments and 6,000 likes. The next one's like, oh, I only got 20 comments and 400 likes. Why? What I do wrong? And then you start to go, is it me? What I do wrong? And then you'll see on social media, people constantly just doing whatever they can just to get clickbait or get vanity likes. But it doesn't solve the problem. And the problem is people just want connections. They want real humans that mean something to them, that have something in common that they can interact with. Because we as a species, and I've learned this through all the acting, we are a species that is designed to have interaction with each other. And without that, we start to fragment into these sort of like, I need attention, narcissistic, vanity sort of posting sort of people. So I'm trying to bring it back to a place where we as humans can find real people that matter to us to make our lives mean more, whether it be from dating, whether it be in college, or whether it be professional. So it's got applications across all three areas there.
This reminds me, so I was at a conference about a year ago, and it was for like business building and branding and networking. And they had us do this like exercise where they pretend you're walking into this room specifically to network. What do you do? And you're supposed to just like act out what you do. Do you go hide in the corner? Do you like gravitate to a large group? And I just went up to the people that ran it and I'm like, am I allowed to leave? Because if this was real life, and I would not have walked into the room.
Right.
I would be up in like my hotel room waiting for that part to be over. Because I don't like to just walk up to people. It's one of my biggest fears. And I know that's kind of part of it too with what you were going for, because social phobia is something that you talk about.
Absolutely. In particular, college kids, the studies have come back that 35% of all college kids suffer from social anxiety disorder. I think COVID did a large number on a whole generation where,
yes, it did.
And then you throw in the fact that everything now is not face-to-face, it's phone-to-phone, screen-to-screen. So there's a generation of kids that have lost the capacity or never were taught the capacity outside of school to enter into a workplace or into a world which has a massive amount of uncertainty, and find a way to conquer that. So in the scenario here with you would be, what city was it in? Where was the location when you had that conference?
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. Was it like at a convention center or like a Marriott or?
It was in a hotel.
Okay. So let's say it was at like the Fort Worth Hilton, for example. You could have stayed in your bedroom up in the room, and you could have placed a pin, your disco billboard, if you wanted, at the convention center in the room. So you'd enter the GPS location of it or put the Marriott or the Hilton, and it would place you there. And everyone who basically entered that room would match with you. So you could be away from that and have all that matching take place, have AI conversation. And then when you find those 5, 10, 15 people that actually have commonalities, say, hey, I'll come down and meet you. And when you walk up to them face to face the first time, you already know all the things you're into that match with you. You've already chatted with them. The AI did it because in our first iteration of Disco, we realized that we were matching people, but then they were faced with the daunting task of actually conversing with each other. So that's where AI comes in now, is that we have AI matching, but also the AI conversation changes everything, because you don't have to now go, oh, what do I say? It does it for you based upon those commonalities, and you have a work tone or a social tone. So you could leave the room finally, go downstairs, you've already met the people that you wanted to meet, and all of a sudden you have a successful convention. And that's what AI does. So it's not, as you're saying, it's not AI, it's anti-AI. And I love that expression. That was really cool.
And this, so I don't like to make assumptions, so I probably should not assume that you don't have that like fear of like social interactions just based on what you spent your entire life doing.
I do and I don't. You know what it is? I've learned to not care.
Okay.
I've learned to get to the point where I realize that I've met so many people in my life that have either promised things or are meant to possess certain traits or qualities that can do for you what you're hoping they can do, but ultimately it doesn't really mean anything. So I can walk up to anyone now and be like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. And if I get rejected, it means nothing to me. And it took a lot of rejection to get to that point. I was rejected a lot as an actor. You're rejected a lot. And so ultimately you have to get to this place where you start to say, well, it's not me, it's just the situation, and it's maybe them. So I think anyone can get to that. It takes a lot of pain and suffering. It's like you're saying, you walk in the room, do I stand in the corner or do I walk up to people? And I think that it's taken me 25 something years to get to this point where I understand that it's never personal. Everyone's insecure. Everyone in every room is insecure. And the ones who aren't insecure are normally the narcissists who come across as not insecure, but they're the most insecure of all, because their egos are so fragile that the moment you offend them, they start to either fold or they start getting, confrontatory in some aspect, and they have to insult you. So I think that everyone is insecure, whether it be in a business environment, at a convention, because at a convention, everyone's trying to make sales, everyone's trying to create deal flow, and that's massively insecure. It's cost you money to get there, set up the booth, go to this convention. You hope to leave going, that was worth it. I made some good introductions, or I made some good business flow. So everyone's insecure about that. Your first day at college, you're insecure about not having friends. You go to a nightclub, you're insecure about, will I meet someone tonight that, whatever my purposes are, will I meet the right guy, the right girl? Will I have a good time? So, it's interesting, when we focus group the first version of Disco, we had a bunch of girls, we focus grouped it with UCLA college students. And one of the girls said, I would use this to find out if my ex-boyfriend is at the nightclub I want to go to. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I didn't think of that. So she's like, I would drop into the nightclub, look around, see who's there and who I match with, to say, oh, I want to go to that nightclub tonight. But at the same time, I'd be able to say, oh, my boyfriend's there, I don't want to go to that nightclub. So you start to realize that it's got dating potentials, has all these things. But that's because at the end of the day, human beings are designed to live in communities amongst like-minded people that have commonalities. That's what we do. So that's my goal, to bring people together like that.
I feel like as an actor, you spent so much time acting naturally. You played all your characters and you were the same character for over 1,000 episodes. Sure. I can't believe you said you left Young and Restless in 2020. I didn't know it was still going in 2020.
It's still on now. It
started in the 70s, didn't it?
Yeah, 73. It's 50 years now? 52 years or something.
I thought Grey's Anatomy was long. Like, that is absolutely insane.
Yeah, there's other ones out there too. I think, was it Days of Our Lives is like 65 years or something. It's crazy.
God. That is insane. But you spend like all of that time, and then you go to these events that, like you said, like people are coming up to you, they want to talk to you, probably want their picture with you. Was it a challenge for you to step away from the role and figure out like how to be yourself in these situations?
No, that's a great question. No, because most people who meet you see you as the character. So they won't, I'd say 90% of them would call me Kane, which was the name of my character. Yeah. They'd be like, Kane, we love you. And then they would come up to you and tell you things like, my love interest on Young and the Restless for a long time, her name was Lily. And they'd be like, I have to tell you, Lily is talking to this other character, this other person. They tell you the name. Be careful. I think that she, and I'd be like, okay, cool. And once they're talking to you like that, you just talk to them like, okay, cool. I'll make sure I tell her, okay, thank you so much. But other people would be like, oh my God, Daniel, we love this. And they're talking to you like Daniel. So I think people would dictate the way that interaction took place. But at the end of the day, it's always gratitude, because you're grateful for having the opportunity to have what you have. You're grateful for having people to come there and meet. You're grateful for them coming up to you. And going back to what you were saying about going to a convention, like you'll go to a convention or to a soap convention or some form of fan convention, and the people line up. When they get to the front of the line, they're nervous. And the first thing you do is give them a hug and say, hey, don't be nervous, because in their mind, they've built this up to be something that is big. They've watched you for so long, so many years, and this is the moment where they meet you. And, that mindset is not just for people who come to a soap convention and they meet a character they love. That's everything. You can go for a job interview and you've always wanted this job. You've always dreamed of working here, and now you have the opportunity. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like you move to a new city the very first time. You've always wanted to move here, and now you're here, and you're walking down the street. You're not even interacting with anybody, but you're nervous. It's because we as humans build up these levels of expectation. Going back to branding, you finally got the brand done. You've come up with the name for it. You've built the website. You've built the social media, and now you're about to launch it. You're nervous because we have expectations. And one thing I've learned in life, and I always used to be expect the best, because if you expect the best, you can somehow manifest it in the universe and it can come true. But you learn that just leads to disappointment. So if you can expect the least amount of anything, or the less you can get from it, then you'll always be pleasantly surprised. And it almost sounds like it's a negative mindset, where if you told me this years ago, I'd go, that's stupid. Who would do that? Why would you go, oh, it's going to suck. Oh, it's this. I'm saying it's not going to suck, but just don't go, I've created this new product. Everyone's going to love it. All of a sudden, it's going to be sold everywhere. I'm going to be a millionaire, because it's not going to happen that easy and that fast. And all you do is get let down. So I think the goal is to, and I've met a lot of people myself that I was a huge fan of, like living in LA, a couple of actors that I rarely would go up to anybody and say hi, whatever, because I just kind of would leave people alone, have their own space. But I'd walk past someone and I'd be like, hey, I'm a big fan. I love your work. Right. And you will see instantly when you say that to some people, I'm talking about big names, and some people are like this, or someone like, oh, thanks very much. I really appreciate that. And they'll keep walking. When I first got here, my first job was working in Denzel Washington's restaurant. And I waited on everybody who was a big star back then, from Mark Wahlberg to Will Smith, Morgan Freeman, Kevin Costner, Halle Berry, names, Dr. Dre, everybody. And I can tell you this, every single person that I waited on that still has a career was an exceptionally kind and generous, nice person. All the ones that you waited on that were like, get me this, I don't like that, that's not good, this sucks, I like that, what is this? Entitlement. Their careers have come and gone. And you realize it's the same as a brand. Your brand has to have a relatable trustworthiness to it, where people go, I feel like this brand comes from a place of, it's genuine. Mm-hmm. It has to be genuine. And I think that permeates everything we do. If it's not genuine, people just smell the bullshit eventually, and just it comes and goes.
That's funny. I was a bartender in Baltimore City, and I served someone who was very famous, but on the political side, like they were a very famous political figure. Right. And I didn't know this till after, because I was like, well, like they're very nice, and like everyone was like, do you know who that is? I'm like, no, I haven't watched the news this year. And I think they were just really happy that I didn't throw something at them, because I had just looked it up, and like the last like public interaction that they had, people at a restaurant like threw drinks at them. And
they went out to a bar. I'm surprised at that point they hadn't holed up. And just
they had the private room for their like family brunch or something. But I'm just like they seem nice, but that was the closest I got to like any. I don't think I ever served Kevin Costner. That would have
politicians probably would have remembered. Yeah, I mean, the idea of being a politician to me is very bizarre, because there's not many people who say, I want to get into politics because I want to make things better. They just want power. They want to be in a position where it's like, I have power. If you're a politician that truly cares about your constituents and wants your constituents to have a better life, and you're going to go to Congress to fight for your constituents, I think that's kind of few and far between, because most of them just get there and they stay there for 20 years, if they can, and they just, next thing you know, they retire and they're worth like $50 million, $100 million. I'm like, well, how did you get that rich on a salary of like $200,000 a year? Doesn't make sense. The math doesn't math.
Yeah.
So yeah, politicians are a different breed though.
Yeah. Did you ever have that experience though of trying to almost like take off the mask? Did people actually think you didn't know what was going on in the show outside of your character?
What did they think? Did they want? What was that?
Like you said that they would come up to you and be like, "Lily is doing this. Don't trust it." Did they really think you didn't know?
It's interesting. I don't think that they. I don't think they did know. I don't think they knew I was Daniel. They knew I was the character, and the character was there. Because it's funny, you've been in situations where you'll have, say, 3 girls. One will call you the character, and 2 will call you Daniel. And then the friends, the 2 of them, correct their friend, going, "No, it's Daniel." Okay. So Kane. And then the friends, and I'll look at the friends, and the friends will look at them. We kind of just have a laugh about it. But what it comes down to is that you basically have done your job really well.
Yeah.
Because you're so entrenched in their mindset as this character, and you're so entrenched in their psyche as this person that they watch, that they don't differentiate between reality and the show. So I think that's probably a testament to great work on my side, without giving myself like a pat on the back, but you've done your job, because that's what they see. So it does happen. And look, I suppose it's like a great brand. I mean, like if you see a can of Coke, like, that's Coca-Cola. You don't go, that's a high fructose corn syrup caffeinated drink inside a recycled aluminum can, that's being overpriced and charged too much. And I guess it should only be worth like 15 cents at most. Most people don't do that. We just lost our
Coca-Cola sponsorship. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. It should be Pepsi anyway. But you know what I mean? Like most people are ingrained, advertising and marketing, and its goal is to ingrain the belief that product, no matter where you see it, is a part of your life. And it's something that you feel safe and friendly with. They don't want you looking at it for what it is. They don't want you seeing that that's what a can of Coke is. They don't want, people from a creative production side don't want people going, "Oh, that's Daniel." They want them to go, "That's Kane." So it's interesting that there's a balance between people who see through the marketing and the branding, and there are people who don't. Like they get to the walls of branding and they stop. They touch it and it's the brand. But there are other people who can cross over that and get past it.
Yeah, he's not here today, but the co-host of the show is Larry Roberts.
You don't need a co-host. You need your own show.
Bye, Larry. You're fired. Yeah. Daniel said it. Kane gave me permission to fire you. But it's not the same level, of course, but he is known in a lot of places as the Red Hat guy because he wears his red hat. His company's Red Hat Media, and he's known for this red hat. And there's so many people who don't know his name. They don't know actually what he does. They just know him as the Red Hat guy. Right. And that was really cool at the beginning because it's like he walks into a room, people know him, but then he actually realized that it's kind of now a challenge because he has to get people to look past the red hat and actually see like who he is and what he does and like what like services he could offer. What have you found? Because I know you've taken that step into the branding and the marketing. How do you, as a personal brand, really build that reputation so that people do know like that's Coke, and have them look past everything else and actually know you and who you are and what you do?
Yeah, I think that going back to the red hat thing, I think what happens there is you have to start saying to yourself that I'm becoming to lose my identity as to who I am and I'm becoming this other person. So therefore, at that point, if you've built that base, maybe then it would be every second time you go out, you don't wear the red hat. Because eventually it's not going to happen.
Oh, he wears it in the shower.
Has he got good hair?
He doesn't have much of it.
Oh, that's why he wears the hat.
Yeah.
For the hat. That's what the hat's for.
It's no, no one has ever seen the top of this man's head. I swear.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, you'd
Yeah.
love him. He's great.
No, I'm just trying to picture. It's like there's a guy, Brett Michaels. He was the lead singer of this band called Poison, and whenever you see him, he always wears a bandana. Yeah, and he's got like the long hair. He's never had the bandana off. And everyone's like, "What's under the bandana?"
See, for me, I always think of that scare. I don't know if, and no one has ever gotten this reference, so I doubt anyone will.
No, I'm hoping I'll be the first.
Okay,
I'm preparing myself.
It was a scary story from sometime in like the 2000s. There was the woman who always had the ribbon tied around her neck, and everyone always asked her why she had the ribbon, and she would never tell. And then finally she does. She takes the ribbon off and her head falls off.
Oh, that's funny. It's not funny that a head fell off. I mean, that's kind of sad and tragic, you know. But no
one's ever heard of this story. How I feel like it was a fever dream. How does no one know this story? Everyone knew the story.
I will look this up. I will Google this afterwards.
It's like the girl with the green ribbon or something.
The girl with the green ribbon. Okay.
I think it was green.
Yeah, well, I think, but see, that's like if you look at people like Madonna, for example, and to a lesser extent, I won't bring up. Look at Madonna. I mean, Madonna every couple of years would completely reinvent herself. She would go from like in the 80s, she was like the prom dress, wedding dress, kind of like pink and hair stuff and ribbons, and then she went to like the dominatrix thing in erotica in the early 90s, and then she went to something else, then something else. And from her perspective is she didn't want to, she knew her fan base would always move along with her. But what's interesting is that as time passes, like if you look at music, every 5, 6, maybe 8 years, music cycles out again, because kids who turn 12, 13, turn 18. And the music they love through their teens kind of defines that part of their life. And then you get to the point where you hit 18. A lot of people, when they get to 18, look back at those years prior to that as either A, that was really cringy, I hated it, I never want to go back there ever again, I want to forget it ever happened, and they want to move on. So everything they associate with that time of their life, they turn their back on. So if you were a musical artist during that time, all of a sudden you get dropped from their brand affinity. So the brand's got to find a way to reinvent so that you take those people, and as you reinvent, they're also reinventing themselves. So you get to college, you no longer want to be the person you were in high school. You know, it's like a one of those movies where you get the makeover, you lose the weight, you get in shape, you dye your hair, you know, you whatever it is, you lose.
Or they just take off your glasses and realize you were beautiful all along.
Oh my God, we never knew. It was just like Clark Kent. No one knew Clark Kent was Superman. I mean, who could figure it out?
Don't get me started.
Seriously. I mean, when I realized that all you have to do is take, look, watch. Hey, you've never met me before. It's nice to meet you. What's your name?
Who are you? Where did Daniel go?
Wait, who are you? Why am I here talking to you?
Oh, you must be Kane. It's so nice to meet you.
Oh my God, that's crazy. Look.
Oh, you're back. Okay.
I'm back.
Oh,
sorry, I had to go and like.
I got worried.
Yeah, I didn't want to scare you too much. So I'm back. Okay, nice to meet you again. But that's what happens. You know, it's like people are constantly having to find a way. How do you rebrand? How do you reinvent? Once again, if you're Coke, you have Coke Original. You don't mess with that. But you'll launch vanilla Coke. You'll launch cherry Coke, right? So I think the goal in branding is once you have that thing that defines who you are and that one thing that people gravitate towards, you have to add another thing into the mix, another thing. And that's you as a person. Like you go through you're 12 to 18, you hopefully can say, these are the things that I'm into and that define me. And I know a little bit more about myself. You don't throw that out. You keep that, but you add to the new stuff. So it's hard, I think, as a brand to think that you can create a brand and not update it. You have to. You know, it's like your clothes. Like you think about what you're wearing this time, this day. You weren't wearing the same clothes 5 years ago. Maybe you were. Maybe this is the only dress you own. Maybe you're like Einstein. You know, he wore the same thing every day and he bought multiple copies because it took too much thought to put into what I was going to wear. So he wore the same thing every day, which I'm a big fan of, to be honest with you. As long as you wash it and it's clean.
That's fair.
You know, yeah. Hygiene helps. You know?
As long as it's pink, I'll wear it. I've thrown out everything that's not pink. Naturally.
Do you have any pink tattoos?
I don't, but my brand is kind of centered around one of my tattoos. So
which tattoo?
So it's the airplane that I have on my arm. And when
Okay.
oh God, we have to tell this story again.
Go. I'm
When
ready.
when I got it, I was on a solo trip in Ireland and I
Okay.
asked for an airplane tattoo and it looked like a penis. Years later, I got it covered, so now it looks like an airplane. But years later, I'm at a podcast conference and I'm trying to get one of my clients booked on one of the biggest finance podcasts in the country.
Okay. Okay.
And I pitch him as an expert in all of these things. And the
Yeah.
host just looks at me like, yeah, that's great. I don't need an expert. I want someone with a cool story.
Yeah.
So naturally, I didn't know what to say next. So I just said, do you want to hear about the time I got a tattoo of a penis while I was in Ireland? And he did. And I accidentally got booked on one of the biggest finance podcasts to tell that story.
See, what you should have told him is that your client used to be a tattooist and all they could tattoo was penises. Not tattoo on penises, but tattoo penises. And he said, I want an airplane. And he didn't say, I can't do an airplane. So it ended up looking like a penis.
I mean, in his defense, I didn't specify. I just said airplane. He took his own creative freedoms with that and decided it had to look phallic. I didn't outright say don't make it look like a penis. So it was my fault.
Well, there is a correlation between penis and airplanes. Is
Mile High
they
Club?
they both can point to the sky.
This is true.
So
Larry's editing all of this out, I'm sure.
See, Larry's going to kill the fun part.
Right.
Larry's the fun killer.
So when I wrote my book,
you wrote a book? I want to see. What's
Oh, I did. It's called Open This Book, The Art of Storytelling for Aspiring Thought Leaders. But it's about how to tell a story. And I learned how to tell my story on that podcast because he had to take my stupid tattoo story that was basically just a punchline and make it valuable for his audience. Yeah. So the way he interviewed me taught me how to tell a story. And like that experience changed my whole career. And now I teach people how to tell their stories. I speak at conferences all over the country teaching how to tell a story. And I wrote my book. The second chapter is the entire story of the tattoo. The chapter is called The Girl with the Penis Tattoo. And I had a friend of mine illustrate it, and she'd actually traced my tattoo and put it on the cover of the book, which is like a little Easter egg, because if you don't know the story yet, you don't know that's what it is. And it makes
what I like about your book is that the cover is, the art's great. It's not convoluted. It's easy to read. I like the color. I like the branding. I love it. Most people will try and put, the kitchen sink on the front of their book.
Yeah.
And there's a very famous book by, was it Avi Kaufman? I think it's called Steal This Book.
Yes.
It was written in the 70s, and it was called Steal This Book. So you'd see it on a bookshelf and in a bookstore, and almost became a cult thing where people would go, I got to steal it. So you actually go, I did steal it. So
did he get sued by Barnes & Noble at any point?
I don't know. I think it's maybe before Barnes & Noble. I'm sure it was Avi Kaufman, but it's called Steal This Book. But open this book. I like that. But what happens when they open it? Does the next page say, now read this book?
Actually, it says...
what happens when we open the cover?
Oh, good. You did.
See, there you go.
That is also...
It should be, yes, you can read. Now keep doing it and turn the page.
Basically. Jasmine Designs out of Australia is actually who did it, and she's amazing. But then I had custom pens made to give out with the book because it's half journal, and so like there's places to write your own story.
That's cool. I like that.
And so I had custom pens made, and after I'd already ordered them, and they say something like, your life is a story, I can't wait to read it, or something like that.
Sure.
But after I ordered them, she's like, please tell me the pens say use this pen. And it didn't. And I'm still disappointed in myself.
Use this pen like it's a penis?
That sounds painful. Don't do that.
It does, doesn't it?
At least retract the tip.
Exactly.
This all sounds terrible.
Good call. Once you finish, you have to always put the cap back on the pen so you don't damage the tip of the pen.
Yeah. Always practice safe writing.
Always practice safe writing.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Don't chew on it. Don't chew on the pen either. It's just like
No one likes a bitten pen.
No one likes a bitten pen.
But I'll send you a copy if you want one.
Larry's dipping his head now with his red hat.
I'm so sorry. Okay. Well, It is
Wait. I want to hear about. So when did you launch your book? How many years ago? Is it recent?
last year.
Last year. Is it on
Yeah,
Amazon?
it is.
Really? So
It
if we want to go to
is.
Amazon, we go to Amazon and we just put in open this book,
Open
and
this
it should.
book. Yeah,
See, I don't have to remember anything else other than just open this
exactly.
book.
Exactly. And it's the title itself is the call to action. You know exactly what I want you to do.
Right. I
Yeah. But
love
there's
that.
my little awards collection for it. So,
Is the sequel going to be called Throw This Book?
oh, it should be.
Right.
Yeah. Or like close this book. It could be, I can't, I know there's already,
hide this book.
oh,
Oh,
that one's fun.
so every book becomes an Easter egg.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah.
So I know there's steal this book, and then there's also like destroy this book, I think, or it's like destroy this journal, and that one's fun because like every page has a different thing you're supposed to do with it to destroy it. It's like rip this out and like burn it and like dunk the whole book in water. Like every page is a different like,
or maybe every
to destroy
page. Yeah,
everything.
not the book, but every page you have to destroy the page.
Mm-hmm.
So once you read the page, you have to tear it out and then destroy it. And that's a symbolic way of learning the lesson from the book and then setting it free. And by the time you finish the book, there's no pages left. So basically you become the shaman monk of what you're trying to teach.
But just don't go like Fahrenheit 451 on it and just start like burning books in general. We don't like that.
We don't want to burn books. You can burn one of the pages. I mean, like, you could roll it up into like, you know, big doobie or something, and then like smoke this book. There you go. Every page is actually rolly paper. So once you've read it, you make a big blunt out of it and you smoke this book.
There's actually a journal called like Use This While You're High. And I have bought it for so many of my friends.
All right. You have a lot of high friends? Nice.
I mean, it's Texas.
Is weed legal in Texas?
No, I don't think so.
Wait, because I know the porn's not legal in Texas. Didn't they just block porn or something? You can't.
Yeah, you can't get on any of the websites.
You know what? I find that kind of funny when you think about it, that a lot of people from California and New York all flocked to Austin because they wanted to have this sort of like a different experience, but they didn't want to pay the taxes and they didn't like the weather in New York. And then they got there and then all of a sudden they can't watch porn and can't smoke weed.
That's the problem I've been having. I'm just like, why did I move here? I moved here specifically.
Your life is so pointless right now.
Yeah, like I moved here to watch porn and smoke weed, and here we are.
So it'd be porn, podcast, and weed. Yeah. PPW, the porn podcast and weed podcast.
Yeah. Would you like to launch it with me? We can co-host.
Sure.
I think it's on brand for both of us.
Well, I mean, you know, you like pink, so therefore there's a lot of crossover there with the porn side. So, and your microphone's phallic and it's pink. So hey, you're already halfway towards the checking all those boxes off, right?
And with that,
just lean a little closer to this mic. I can't hear you. What'd you say?
I'm getting a new microphone. Okay. Daniel, thank you so much for being on Branded. This was pure chaos. How can people get in touch with you, find out more about you, get on the app, all of the things?
They can go to Under the Inn. That's UNDERTHEIN.com for to look at the digital marketing branding inside of the company. And the app is Disco, which is DYSKO. It'll be in the app and the Play Store in about 3 weeks a month. I don't know when you're going to air, but basically it's DYSKO. Just go to the App Store, the Play Store, and download and check it out.
Awesome. And I am not as good as transitions as Larry is, so everyone go ahead and hit that subscribe button so we can keep bringing these purely chaotic episodes every week. And with that, I'm Sara Losi. Larry Roberts will be back next week, and we will talk to you next week. Bye.